God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah, truly. Welcome. My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host. Who are you?
Toni Homeperm.
Yes, Toni Homeperm, and we are here to discuss the 1970s hit sitcom
Maude.
Yes, that is what God'll Get You for That, Walter is all about. And today we're going over episode 7 from season 3. So season 3, episode 7. This is our episode 56.
55.
55. That's twice you've corrected me on
I
that.
know. And you know what? I have no problem with correcting you.
Oh, I know you don't.
I live for it. Do we know when this one aired originally?
October 21st, 1974.
10/21/74.
10/21/74.
Good to know.
It was directed by Hal Cooper, written by Norman Lear, Dick Clare, and Jenna McMahon,
Okay.
with script consultant Rod Parker.
Alrighty.
And there were 3 guest stars. There was Henry Calvert.
Mm-hmm.
They had him listed as Ed. I think that was not supposed. I think that's supposed to be Henry.
Right.
Gene Blakely is a non-named man, and Jan Kay is a non-named woman.
Right. They were a couple.
They were a couple, yes.
Yes.
What'd you think of the episode?
Meh.
Yeah,
It was like
It
not
was an episode.
not one of the best. There weren't really any moments that were really hilariously funny.
true. I mean, there were a couple
was-
of lines that, like, Mrs. Naugatuck said,
Yeah, it
and a
was-
couple of lines that Maude said.
Humorous, but it wasn't like one of those episodes that just like makes you want to
Stuck
laugh out
with you.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, the very end, when Maude sings to the tune of, I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm,
Yes, yeah.
that was entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, let's get into this rather meh episode.
Yes. Which, of course, did we say it's Walter's dream?
Yes, it is called, the episode is entitled Walter's Dream.
Yes.
So, it starts off with Maude and Vivian preening and looking at themselves in the
In
mirror.
the mirror, yes.
And Vivian's in this very beautiful, off-the-shoulder blue gown.
Yes.
And
She's showing off the girls.
showing off her bazooms.
Yes.
And Maude is in this very masculine black pantsuit with a red velvet long vest that had ostrich feather trim, black
Yes.
ostrich feather trim. Very attractive, very Maude.
Yes.
Very Maude.
Although I'm sure her feathers were not molting all over the place. Because I do have to share.
Do you have to?
I have to. We did a show this past Friday
We
night.
did do a show this past Friday.
And my co-hostess, Miss Catt, decided to wear this outfit. This gold, it was sort of like a gold lame pantsuit.
Gold sequined dress.
Dress?
With a slit up
Oh, that's
the
right. It was a
side.
dress.
It was a
That's
dress
right.
with a
It
slit
was-
up
it
the
was a dress.
side.
Because that's right. You had to hike it up to get in the car.
I did have to hike it up to
And
get
the
in
whole
the car.
neighborhood
The
saw your blue
whole
panties.
neighborhood saw my blue panties.
And it had these beautiful white feathers.
It was very elegantly trimmed in white feathers. I put
Yes.
feathers around the bust and the neckline, and also around the floor of the gown.
And would you care to tell the listeners what happened with the feathers at the Mad Batter Cafe where we performed our Broadway Babe show? Please share. The stage is yours.
Anything else you'd like to add? I don't know.
Guess what? No,
I'm not gonna say
Get
anything.
it out.
Unfortunately, the feathers at the bottom of the dress sort of, kind of went everywhere.
They emigrated. They emigrated from you.
They sort of went the way of the dodo.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, when you have a floor-length gown, you have to also worry that because it's floor length, it will be rubbing against the floor. And if
what
you
you
have
did.
feathers on the bottom of your dress, the feathers are going to inevitably come off.
Which they did.
The next day, I literally cut the dress in half, and I moved the feathers from the bottom of the floor to my thighs. And I intend on wearing that dress again, just not in Toni's company. Because if there is one thing I don't want to hear, it's Toni complaining that there are feathers everywhere.
They really were everywhere.
But I mean, I wore a similar outfit. It was red. It was salmon sequins, and it was covered in dove, like a light gray dove feather. And those feathers really didn't go all over the place the same way that this dress did.
No, I don't know what it was with these feathers.
I think it was honestly. I think it was just because it was on the floor.
Bottom. Yeah,
it was on the floor.
They were not having it.
They were not having it.
Oh, and unfortunately, they had to do a lot of sweeping up.
They did. They did have to do a lot of sweeping up and a lot of vacuuming.
We still have feathers here.
They're still hiding. They're still all
feathers
over the place.
all around us.
Yep.
So.
But that is, and you know, anecdotal. But the reason I bought those feathers in the first place was because I was doing a Mae West impersonation, and I always remember Mae West having feather boas or like feather adornments. And just floor-length black sequin gowns, or just like floor-length gowns. So I'm like, oh, it'll be very Mae Westian and Jessica Rabbit if they had a child.
Right.
And unfortunately, it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to.
C'est la vie.
But rest assured, there will be more floor-length gowns that will not have feathers on them.
Yes. Oh my.
But yes, we had a good show though.
We did.
We had a good show though.
We had a very good show.
So Maude and Vivian are staring at themselves in the mirror. They're preening like peacocks. We find out that Walter and Arthur have been away for 2 weeks up in the mountains of Canada.
Yeah, on a fishing trip.
On a fishing trek.
And Vivian's asking Maude, do I look good? Do I look sexy?
Yes.
Is Arthur going to go berserk when he sees me? She's hoping he's going to be hungry.
Yes, and...
Maude, she says she wants, when Walter comes in, he wants to look at her like...
Yule Gibbons, looking at a bowl of grape nuts.
Did you ever have grape nuts?
Never, but I've always been fascinated to have them.
I've had them.
I mean, is it essentially bran cereal?
No, it's kind of like a granola kind of a thing. I don't even know if they still make it.
They don't. They make Raisin Bran cereal. I don't believe they do grape nuts.
No. See, the grape nuts were like these little just sort of irregular shaped kernels that were crunchy.
Yeah. That is vaguely what I remember. When I was like from the age of like 0 to 10, maybe in that general area, I had grape nuts, but they never.
See, around this time in the 70s,
yes,
when I was a mere slip of a child, like that health craze, like people going on like these health craze and health kicks, was very big. It was very big. I can remember, and my mother was, whatever the frickin' trend was, she had to hop on it. So it became a big thing. Like all of a sudden, like now there was no more like Frosted Flakes or Rice Krispies. Now we had to have the grape nuts. Alpen was another cereal. Alpen.
Sounds like a dog food.
I know. Not Alpo.
Not Alpo.
Alpen. Alpen.
Okay.
I was trying to make it sound like it was like this whole grain goodness from the Alps, and that kind of thing. Bran cereals became very big. Vitamins were another thing. My mother went on this kick. Like every morning, she gave me like these horse pills to take. Why, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't
because she wanted you to live a nice, healthy life.
I mean, it was just, but every time she got on a health craze, it was like, oh, God, what now? So, yeah, so she wanted Walter to look at her as if he were Yule Gibbons looking at a bowl of grape nuts.
Yeah.
And
Vivian asks Maude, why do men like going away together?
Go off together.
Men
like to go off together. If that was said now, it would be that would be quite the double entendre.
I mean,
immediately
honestly,
I thought of Brokeback Mountain.
Of course you did.
Because of course I did.
Because Maude then looks at the camera and it just a pause, and she's just staring, and she goes, "I don't want to know."
Yes.
I don't want to think about it. That's what she
And
says.
then Vivian asks her if she's looking bosomy
Bosomy.
enough.
And Maude, being the best friend in the universe, says, Vivian, a good snowfall helps, but it doesn't make Switzerland look any bigger.
Mm-hmm. And we find out that Vivian she's enhanced her cleavage.
Yes, she has. She's done a drag queen
Yeah,
trick.
it's a drag queen trick. It is.
You want to say that again?
Drag queen trick.
A drag queen trick.
Drag queen trick.
Try saying that 10 times fast.
But drag queen trick could have another connotation.
Another connotation. Yep.
Yes, but
another connotation.
Another connotation.
Words are hard today, ladies and gentlemen.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. And welcome to the
final
last
episode of
God
God'll Get You for That, Walter.
The show where every episode is the last.
Final
Is the final
episode.
episode. But yes, that is a drag queen trick.
It is a
Drag queens who don't want to use like what I do, the silicone breastplate.
Yes.
They will contour a cleavage.
Quite heavily.
They will contour a cleavage. And sometimes I've seen it done and it looks really good.
And sometimes I've seen it and it don't look great.
It don't look good. No, it
just
looks like two brown
just two
circles on the
and,
chest.
You know, today, as a matter of fact, I was talking to one of my friends because we're planning a shoot for Resident Evil, and the character I'm dressing up as is, I don't know if our viewers are familiar, but the character I'm dressing up as, her name is Lady Dimitrescu. And she's this 9-foot-tall vampire woman with gigantic breasts. And I do have, like, foam and silicone breasts, but you need the distinct cleavage. And, you know, there was a part of me that's like, I can just smoosh the fat there together and hope for the best. And I've done that before. Are you okay? Your eyes are...
My allergies.
Oh, they're killing
me. The allergies are very bad. Yeah,
well,
this one eye is like starting to water.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So, no, there's nothing can be done about it.
Just take a leg.
It just happens. I took
a
my allergy medication this morning, but it doesn't do any good. So I just ignore it.
Of course. So I was talking to my friend who's putting the whole photo shoot together.
Yes.
And I'm like, I need to see how much money I'm going to be making, because what I would like to do is I would like to invest in a set of, you know, fake silicone breasts where you can like take them on and off and you'll get the visage of cleavage.
And also we don't have to shave our chest.
And we don't have to shave our
when
chest.
we do that.
We don't have to shave our chest.
It's bad enough.
My armpits are still screaming at me that I shaved
from
them.
shaving them? Oh.
So he said we would much rather wait until you get the breasts to do the shoot because we want it to look as realistic as possible. And I'm like, that's so sweet of you. So she uses Helena Rubinstein.
Yes. Haven't heard that makeup brand
in a long time.
I don't even know if it still exists.
My grandmother, may she rest in peace, wanted me to try and see if I could find for her a specific shade of powder pink lipstick that was Helena Rubinstein.
Oh, okay.
Because this was around the time when I think Nicki Minaj was doing the Viva Glam line, and hers was a really super powdery pink. And I wanted to get it for my grandmother. And she was like, that's not how... I'm like, Ma, how light do you like your... Do you want them to be white? And she goes, well, what I used to do is I would take white cream makeup and just mix it with a little drop of red. And she really liked it, because I think that was the trend during some point where you like enjoyed having like really, really, really light lips.
Yeah, well, definitely in the 60s. That was like that was like a mod thing. That's when like white lipstick came in, you know. And you know, it was a cool... That was a very cool look. Like usually they had like those the sort of brim hat,
the cloche style hats.
Yes, you know, the mini skirts, go-go boots, that type of thing.
And then the white lipstick.
White lipstick. It was very chic.
Yeah.
It was very
and
chic.
that was the look that my grandmother wanted to achieve. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the lipstick for her. Oh well. Such is life.
Yeah.
So at that point, you know, the door, like, there's knocking at the door, and
they're like, oh,
Vivian,
it's them.
Vivian,
we love you, we love you.
We open the door. It's just Mrs. Naugatuck.
And
And she is carrying groceries, and she turns to them and she goes, "Just a simple cold on Valentine's Day will do."
Will do, yes. And that's when,
They start asking, like, Mrs. Naugatuck, we've missed our husband so much.
They've been gone for 2 weeks.
They've been gone for 2 weeks. How do we look? Like, do we look okay? Do we look good? And she goes, you look like a barracuda waiting for a cow to cross.
Yep. And that's what they look like. So, then I think, did they hear the door? They heard them outside.
The car pulls up, and Maude and Vivian are frantic again.
Yes, now they have to arrange themselves.
Yes. And Maude turns to Vivian and goes, the thing you need to do is play it very casual and very cool. Yes. Now get out of my way. I want Walter to be the first thing he sees when he walks in the door.
No, she says, I want to be the first
I want to be the first thing
Walter sees.
I want to be the first thing Walter sees.
So she throws herself on the couch and
shoves
arranging herself seductively. So Vivian, she's first trying to
she's trying to juxtapose pose herself
on the couch, and that didn't work.
She was jockeying for position.
So she ran over to the bar, and
at that point, Walter and Arthur enter, and they are filthy.
Disgustingly so.
They are filthy.
Yeah, they're dirty. They've got 5 o'clock shadow. They're just a mess. And they're carrying some big crate, I guess, of fish.
Yeah, it's a fish. Fresh fish.
Yeah.
Have you ever prepared fish? I'm talking prepared fish.
No, like scale and gut it and all that. Hell no. No. I buy mine in the way God intended it. Frozen quickly in a plastic wrapper.
Mrs. Paul?
No, not even Mrs. Paul. Yes, I've used Mrs. Paul. But no, I in the supermarket, they have the fillets. They're already.
Oh yeah, they're already frozen. They're already ready to go.
And I've gotten salmon like that from Walmart.
My mother the same.
And it's delicious.
Yep.
The thing is, this is a domestic goddess tip now.
Oh, here we go.
You're much better off to buy the fish that's been quick frozen rather than buy fresh, it's sitting out there on the ice.
Really?
Yes, because the fish that's quick frozen, as soon as it's caught, it's frozen.
It's frozen.
Now, the stuff that's sitting out on the ice, you don't know how long it's been sitting out on the ice.
True.
It may actually have already been frozen and then thawed.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, so fish, shrimp, which I really can't eat anymore, but also your quick frozen shrimp, that's the best shrimp to buy.
They don't teach you these things in books, kids.
No, you have to learn it on the streets.
Yeah. Where every good chef learns.
Yes. Psst, kid, come here. You want to know where to get the best fish?
Oh, that's terrifying.
My
I can
mother
just
told me
imagine
never
you
to
in
talk.
full drag
Yes.
doing this.
My mother told me never to talk to a strange fishmonger.
Monstrous.
So Maude comments that Walter, he looks like one of those Japanese soldiers that just found out the war was over. Yes.
And he's. Go ahead.
No, and Arthur, he's complaining about the amount of gas, what they spent on gas.
Yeah, he literally just comes in and walks. Walter goes over to Maude, and they're having their But Arthur walks directly past
Vivian. Yes.
Completely ignoring her.
Yes.
And
he sits down where the phone is.
Yes,
he wants
and
to
he's
figure
just
out
figuring out how much money they spent on gas.
And Vivian is still posing there.
Vivian is being sexy and moving all over and these varying I'm showing off. I'm here. This is me, Vivian.
Yes.
Poor thing was completely ignored.
Yeah, she was, and she looked really good.
She did. Her
really
hair
good.
was very nice. Her makeup was beautiful.
Yes. And Maude is suggesting to Walter that him and Arthur run through the sprinkler.
Yes.
Because they're so filthy.
And I think one of the first things that Walter says is, I'm covered in Canadian soil.
Yes.
Pure Canadian mud, whatever it was.
It's like a manly mud.
Yes. And Maude says it's dirt, Walter.
Yes.
Imported, but still dirt.
Yes. And then we see there's some white substance on his jacket.
he goes on about all of the things that, like, dirt on his outfit.
Yeah, well, they're like badges of honor.
Badges of honor. That his pants were torn.
Yeah.
By a branch. And how a wild speckled goose shit on his shoulder.
Pooped on his shoulder.
Pooped on his shoulder.
Yes.
And, you know, Maude is... The closer Walter gets to Maude, the more Maude smells how awful her husband smells.
Yes.
And she just looks away and crosses her eyes and goes, I'm overwhelmed.
Yes. She wants him to, like, scrape off all these layers.
Yes, of dirt and guano.
Yes. And then they can celebrate. Now here's the funny thing. Arthur Fun at this point he figures out that over the past 2 weeks
they spent $98.42 on gas in Canada.
Yes, because they had to drive to Canada, drive around Canada,
and then drive back.
And drive back home. And all that was
$98.42.
Which,
by today's standards,
I mean,
is cheap.
I mean, because literally right now we're going through a similar gas crisis.
Yeah, we are.
And
if anybody blames the president, I'll hang you.
This is the fault of the oil companies.
This is the fault of the oil companies.
They are ripping us off.
Ripping us off.
They're ripping us off. I saw
there are so many calls for us as American citizens to no longer use fossil fuels.
Also, I don't know if you've ever seen her on TikTok. I think it's Representative Katie Porter.
I'm familiar with Katie Porter. Yeah, Katie Porter.
She was like grilling
her whiteboard. She gets the whiteboard.
She was grilling these oil executives. They have gotten all these permits for land here in the domestic United States to drill for oil.
Yeah.
And like most of them, they're not even doing anything with them, and they want more permits for more land. And she was like, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
She said you'll have all this land that you're not doing anything with, and you still want more, and this is the problem. It's like
corporate greed. It's all about corporate greed.
It's like enough is never enough. It's like how much do you really need?
I forget who was I talking to. I think maybe it was you that I was talking to. Where it was, who else do I really talk to? Where it's once you go over $100,000, that's when the greed starts to set in.
Yeah.
Like because at $75,000 a year, that's comfortable. That's living a very luxurious life. But as soon as you go over $100,000, that's where the greed starts to consume you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't remember.
It may not have been you. It may. I know it was someone that I was talking to. Maybe it was my therapist.
Maybe.
And we were just talking about it, and it's one of those things where I'm like, yes, that makes sense. That over a specific amount is when you'll realize that enough really isn't enough.
I mean, like Elon Musk he literally can pay $44 billion for Twitter.
That deal may still not be going through.
I know. But the fact that somebody would have
that much money,
that much $44 billion to pay for one thing.
Yeah.
Meaning that there's, a lot more that he has. That, I mean,
I don't know. I think it was the UN, either the UN or some organization, basically had it where they detailed everything in order for Elon Musk to. Thank you. They gave a detailed list for Elon Musk to essentially end world hunger.
Right. Yeah.
And it came to about like $6 billion.
Right.
And instead he chose to buy
Twitter. Yeah.
So it really is upsetting. And also it points out that late stage capitalism, you're going to branch off into one of two extremes. You're either going to go into a socialist regime or a fascist regime. And I am praying we do not get into a fascist regime.
Really? I know.
Like it really is very upsetting how money corrupts corruptly in this.
Yeah.
No, it's power corrupts.
Yes.
And also money corrupts.
Yes. Very true.
So those are all of our opinions on that.
Yeah. So Arthur is aghast that they spent
$98.42.
And literally nowadays, I mean, that people are, they fill up their tank and it's,
twice that
or not more.
That if not more.
It's scary.
At half a tank I filled up. It cost me $60.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, now I'm just gonna have to fill up when I get to a quarter a tank.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It is. I'm thankful that I don't drive all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at that point, I'm trying to think what happened after that. I think I think Walter went upstairs, then came back downstairs while Arthur was going over the numbers, and he told Maude that he ate peas with a knife.
Yes, actually, even.
Oh no, it was before that.
Even before that, I have something about Maude.
Moronic Madonnas. Her talking to Vivian about that.
Even before that. Maude you're saying something about Arthur being like a cheap wine that doesn't travel well.
Oh yes, when Vivian and her were talking.
Yes. And she's telling Vivian that what's going to happen. That Walter is going to be like enumerating everything that he did.
Yes.
Starting with like he picked up a rock, he caught fish.
Yeah. Oh God! Please don't let him tell that they caught a fish.
Yes, and he's going to be like, we've got to move up there.
Yep.
And that's when she made the remark that they as wives.
That's our role when they come home. Moronic Madonnas.
Moronic Madonnas. That's what they have to be like. That's when Walter
comes downstairs.
And he's like, guess what? I ate peas with a knife.
12 peas.
12 peas on one.
12 peas on one knife. And Maude's like, oh, Walter, I'm so proud of you.
So proud.
And Walter mentions a name, Popeye Kling.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Popeye Kling was a name mentioned.
Oh, I didn't.
Who I think was either the owner of the lake or owner of a piece of property on the lake.
Probably, yeah.
I think a lake house that they were staying at, perhaps.
Probably. Or was he the one who owns the lodge that he's looking for?
Yeah, owns the lodge.
He owned the lodge, and he's looking for a partner.
Yes.
Yes.
And again, the name of that gentleman was Popeye Kling.
Yes. And I think that's when he tells Maude that he's looking for a partner for the lodge.
Yep.
And Walter wants to go in.
Yep.
And I think that's about when Walter and Arthur they pick up that crate of fish.
Yeah. Arthur says that he wrote a poem. Then
Arthur wrote a poem.
And then they say "Holy mackerel, the fish," which I thought was adorable because mackerel, obviously.
And as he's walking by Maude, he says, "I'll catch you, gut."
I'll catch him. You got him, Maude. What do you think about that?
Yes. And
then Vivian turns to Maude and says, why doesn't he say hello? Because again, completely and totally ignores his wife.
So Maude goes into the kitchen and she tells Arthur to go and say something to Vivian.
Yes.
And that's when Arthur, he goes out, and then when he tells Vivian his poem.
And the poem, from what I got, was, I saw a cloud. I wonder why.
Up in the sky,
up in the sky. I wonder why. I wonder why.
Yes.
What was the line after that?
Something about it began to drip.
Yes. And then I think he says, my soul was swabbed by heaven's Q-tip.
Heaven's Q-tip. And then he loves the makeup in her cleavage.
Yes, loves the makeup in her cleavage, and then they start loving up on each other. Yes. And then that's when Mrs. Naugatuck comes out and says, oh, I love these suburban orgies.
And it was funny that we actually hear the term orgy used twice in this episode. I was like, oh, interesting.
Yep. And then Mrs. Naugatuck said that I can't wait for my day off.
Yeah.
And then that's when we cut to commercial.
Yes. Then when we...
Oh, that was one thing that we forgot to mention. Oh. Yes, we were watching this on Tubi. We're watching Maude on Tubi, where you can watch it for free. Tubi is a streaming service. You can also watch Maude for free on...
Amazon Prime.
Freevee.
Yes.
Freevee TV.
On Amazon Prime.
You only get the first two seasons on Freevee TV, and on Tubi you get seasons 3 and 4.
So currently, no place to see season
5 or 6.
But
seasons 5
who knows?
6. Who knows?
Who knows what'll happen?
They just, like I was telling Tony before we went live, that 227 was just on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
They released every single season on Hulu,
Yes.
so who knows what's going to happen. Hopefully Maude will get the same treatment. Because 227 was also a Norman Lear project.
Was it?
I believe so.
I don't know. We'll have to check on that.
We may have to look that. May have to double check that.
May have to check that.
I would love to see Maude on Hulu.
Yes. So we come back and Walter is cleaning the fish.
Scaling the trout.
Yes. And he's telling Maude about his story about everyone told him not to use this shallow pond.
Yep.
That you're not going to catch any fish there.
Yep.
And he moseyed over. He waited till the morning, I think. Nobody was around. He moseyed over. He didn't even have a fishing pole. All he had was a string
and a hook.
And some worms. And he caught the biggest fish.
Yep.
Out of that.
And while
pond.
he is describing the story, Maude is just looking miserably at the camera.
Yeah.
And whenever Walter turns around, Maude just smiles haplessly.
Right.
And I love when they do bits like that.
Yes.
It is something that I quite enjoy.
And then Walter, he was doing this thing about he was rattling off the names of the different people up there.
Yes, and it almost sounded like he was rattling off the names of the seven
dwarves. Exactly.
But the last name was he
couldn't remember.
He couldn't remember, and then Maude says Spud.
Yes. Spud. And Spud threw a party for Walter.
Yes.
Catching that fish because it was considered a miracle.
Yep. And
he wants him to invest in the lodge.
Yep. Maude says the folks who run the lake sound right friendly.
Yeah, and Walter's saying he wants to get out of this concrete jungle.
Yep.
He's accusing Maude of killing him.
Actually, one of the physical comedy bits was Walter saying, "We gotta move, Maude, we gotta move," and while Walter's saying that his back is turned, Maude is mouthing the words.
Right. Oh, one thing we did forget when he was telling Maude about eating the peas with the knife.
Yes.
When he finished with the knife, he did.
Oh,
what he did with the knife.
He took the knife, threw it down into a plank of wood.
Yes.
And it went thwack.
Thwack. Yes, because it's very important.
That is a very important thing.
That kept coming up.
Yes.
Yes. Because when Walter said that he accused Maude of trying to kill him by, keeping him there in the concrete jungle.
Yep.
And
he's like, "You're killing me, Maude. You're killing me."
Yes.
And, Maude then says, "I have 2 words for you, Walter. Thwack!"
Yes. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, or at least in the living room, Arthur and Vivian are sort of canoodling on the couch.
That is a great word.
Yes, and Maude walks out and she tells Arthur that Walter wants him. And
by the way, I love the Helena Rubinstein on your cheek.
Yes. Maude now starts telling Vivian about what's going on. That it's the worst thing.
Yep.
About Walter wanting to go into this partnership.
Yep. With Mr. Bigfoot at Lake Titicaca.
Yes. And Maude decides, because they've gone down this road before, and she says this time she's gonna call his bluff.
Yep.
Yes. She's gonna agree to go along with it because she feels that he'll chicken out.
He'll chicken out. Yeah.
Yeah.
She says our nearest neighbors will have 4 paws and bury their nuts in the winter.
That was a good line.
Which I enjoyed very much.
That was a good line. And Walter comes out and he's like ready to battle.
Yep.
He's ready to battle over doing this partnership.
And Maude relents.
Yes.
She says how selfish I am to impose such comfort.
Forgive me. I was so selfish.
She says, first thing tomorrow, we're going to put the house on the market.
Right.
And you'll call Mr. Henry Jenkins
to
sell Finley's Friendly Appliances.
Right.
And that's exactly what she does. She goes over to the little table.
She's like, I'm going to call Mr. Jenkins right now and tell him you want to sell the store.
Yep.
She calls information.
And she says, yes, hello, operator. Henry Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
And the operator asks, can you look him up in the directory? Yeah. Obviously, because the next line that Maude says is, no, I can't look him up in the directory. I'm at an orgy and some clown is fogging up my contact lenses.
Yes. So we had 2 mentions of the orgy.
2 mentions of an orgy.
Which was interesting. I wonder how they got that past the censors.
I mean, free love in the 70s.
I guess.
Everyone was having orgies in the 70s.
Right.
Do you know, anecdotal. So
Yes.
I belong to a lot of convention 21 plus groups.
Okay.
And when I say 21 plus groups, because that got me in trouble one of the last times I said it, 21 plus groups like Colossal Con, New York Comic Con, Anime NYC, Dragon Con. These are all 21 plus groups where you can like speak freely about your experiences. You can talk about anime. You can talk about comics. You can like it's a lot of, we call it shit posting.
Okay.
And a lot of the times there will be a joke saying that there will be an orgy at this convention, or it'll always be a joke most of the time. Sometimes, however, there are parties that get just a little wild.
Okay.
And it's just one of those things where it is so consistently mentioned that it's become a running gag. Where like someone will go to a convention and then someone will be like, "Oh, did you see so and so at the orgy?" And it'll just be a running gag.
Gotcha.
And it's just one of those things that I love conventions for that reason specifically.
It's all good.
All the memery. We love the
So
memery.
All right. So Walter makes her hang up the phone,
Yes.
and you're thinking like, oh, he's chickening out.
Yep. Maude turns to Vivian and goes, "Well, it looks like someone is going to give in."
Yeah. But Walter reveals he already told Jenkins.
You already told Jenkins.
They already have a deal.
They have a deal, and they're meeting, I think, the next day?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And he tells her that
it was you, Maude. It's all you.
Yeah. He had told Jenkins as long as it was all right with Maude, the deal was on.
Yep. So, Walter gives her a big hug and a kiss and, like, races, I think, either upstairs or to the kitchen.
Yes.
And Maude turns back to Vivian and goes, "Thwacked!
Yep.
By my own!"
So then we had a commercial break.
Yes.
We come back.
Commercial.
Vivian is on the couch eating what looked like grape nuts.
Grape nuts.
Oddly enough.
And she was in a very attractive purple outfit. It was very, very pretty.
And there's a couple that Maude is walking through the house. They're looking at the house because that was the other thing. She said she was going to have the house put up for sale.
Yep.
When she was telling Walter that she's going to go through with it. And the man is saying like, oh wait, that he loves the tool bench,
the workbench.
The workbench.
Maude says the workbench doesn't go with the house.
Doesn't come with the house. Yes.
And, they're going on about how lovely the house
Yes.
is. And then, the gentleman mentions, "Oh, we love this bar.
This
Like,
bar.
I've always wanted a house with a bar."
Yes.
And Maude says, "Oh, the bar doesn't go with the house.
Doesn't come with the house, right. And then they're talking about the 3 bathrooms.
But even before that, they were mentioning how they were in an apartment and it was very cramped, and now they're in a house. Now,
Yes.
I love the fact that they went from an apartment to now a 3-bathroom house.
Yeah.
And I wish that was a luxury that we felt today in today's housing market.
Yeah,
But
forget
it's
it.
just not happening.
Right.
So he mentions the 3 bathrooms, and Maude says, "Oh, the bathrooms don't go with the house."
Right.
So the gentleman finally
But she says she'll throw them in.
she'll throw them in. Yes,
She'll throw them in.
as a courtesy.
Funny thing, because I see this a lot now, and it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. How we see, people are paying these exorbitant amounts for rent
Yep.
monthly,
Yep.
but they can't get a mortgage for
And sometimes it's cheaper to pay a mortgage than it is to pay rent.
absolutely.
Yep.
My mortgage is lower than a lot of rents.
Isn't it awful?
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
I kind of sort of hate the housing market, and I'm waiting patiently for it to crash.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous. Actually, we have a couple that we know decided to they're relocating.
Yes.
And they put their house up for sale, and they didn't even have to show it. It was like
Cash offer, I'm sure.
It was I don't know about that, but I know I guess the whoever the realtor was already had somebody that they figured would want that, and it didn't even have to do like an open house or anything like that.
Makes sense.
It was like
By today's standards, that's the norm.
Yeah.
That's the norm. And
Yeah.
it's upsetting me that that's the norm. Because it should not be the norm.
Yeah, I know. Another thing I saw on Facebook that was so funny was somebody was reposting somebody else's thing.
Yes.
But it was a woman who looked to be in maybe her 60s or 70s saying like, well, you know, young people today, they don't need to go into debt for college. They could just get a job and work and pay for college while they're working. And it's like, it was like, and somebody was like, well, yeah, maybe in like the time that Jesus walked the earth, but it's you can't do that today. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work anymore like that.
No, I mean, you look at how things were, like, you know, look at like the 50s. The husband could work, you know, one person in the household could work, and that paid for everything.
You were able to survive on one
Paid a
income.
mortgage, paid for a car, paid for your utilities, expenses, vacations, all these things.
Yep.
You literally can't.
Nope.
One person, one job.
And this notion that, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes, this notion that, you know, working retail is, you know, unskilled labor, and that people that work retail and people that work in food services should not be making a living wage is horsepucky.
Yeah.
It's absolute horsepucky. Everyone, regardless of occupation, should be able to afford to live comfortably.
Yeah.
And the fact that that is not the law of the land right now really upsets me.
It is upsetting.
Because, you know, I am currently working 3 jobs, and I'm not able to afford to move
By the
out of
way,
my house.
you need to vacuum the living room
Ha!
after we're done taping
Thanks.
this.
Thank you so much. I will get right on that, Ma. Get right on it. But it really is upsetting that, like, there are people that believe that, you know, people that are the burger flippers. Why do the burger flippers need to make $15 an hour? No, that is not accurate. That is still a skilled job. That is still a job that requires a specific skill set. And the fact that there are people that believe that you do not deserve a living wage really bothers me.
They were saying how people complaining about like their favorite restaurants. There's such a long wait now because people, you know, don't want to be waiters and waitresses. And it's like, yeah, well, you were saying for years, well, if you don't want to work, if you don't like working a job like that, find something better. And they found something better, and now you're upset because there's nobody to work at the restaurant.
Yeah. During the pandemic, there was a significant number of people that were saying, oh, we're closed because no one wants to work for us anymore. Yeah. And there were people that actually reached out to those companies saying, I'm looking for a job, and I'm looking for a job at such a wage.
Right.
And they did not, the people that owned the company denied them.
Right.
And it's like,
yeah,
you want the job, but you're not willing to pay the people to work that job.
Right, exactly.
And it really is becoming a problem.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, one job that I'm working currently, I asked for $16 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told, okay, we'll make that work. So, paperwork's all clear, we figure it out, and then I notice I'm only making 15.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I go to my manager and I'm like, excuse me, I had asked for 16. Why am I only getting 15? Do you know that a day later he said, oh, I have great news for you. I'm like, I hope it's $1 raise.
Yeah.
He says, not exactly. I'm like,
that's not great news.
So he says that because I got a raise of 50 cents, so now I'm getting paid $15.50 an hour, all of his assistant managers got a raise because I got a raise. So because I'm getting $15.50, everybody that's above me gets $16 an hour. And I'm like, okay. And I can't do anything because I need this job.
Jesus.
So it really is upsetting.
It is.
It really is upsetting where we're at. Just can we tax the billionaire class?
Yeah. It's really ridiculous.
I have a lot of opinions when it comes to the economy.
All right.
I'm not an economist, so what the hell do I know?
I know. What do you know? So the couple, they see that, you know,
They
Maude
ask.
doesn't really want to sell.
They
Yeah.
asked, "Are you sure you want to sell this
Yes.
house?" And she goes,
It's like,
"No." Well,
yeah.
yes.
Yes.
And she's having this constant inner conflict.
She's back and forth.
But they decide that Maude will call first thing in the morning if she decides.
They
to
tell her,
change.
"Call us when you're ready."
Call us when you're
and
ready.
she shows them out. And Vivian is telling her, Maude, you're throwing away your life.
You're throwing away your roots.
Yeah.
Your roots are all
yes.
here.
Yes. And then Maude goes into this explanation about
Margaret Mead.
Yes.
And she's saying we outlive our husbands because we're so materialistic that we
Right.
kill them early.
Right. And she figures if they move up there to Canada, then
Walter's going to gain 5 years, and it'll take 10 years off of Maude.
Right. So it'll average out, and they'll die together.
Yep.
Yes.
Which I thought was an enjoyable.
Yes. And
little-
Vivian's like, Maude, I don't think that's what Margaret Mead meant.
And then Maude says, "What the hell does Margaret Mead know?"
Yes. Then we cut to the bar.
We cut to the bar.
Arthur and Walter are with Henry Jenkins
Jenkins.
because Walter and Henry Jenkins have finalized this deal, except for actually, I guess, signing papers at the lawyer.
Correct.
And Arthur's saying that it's the impossible dream.
Yep.
That he's gonna be seeing polar bears taller than Maude.
Yes.
I think that's when it comes out about that Mr. Jenkins, he's going to be changing the name of the store.
Yes, and Walter's like, that's 20 years of goodwill. Like, what are you going to?
Everyone knows it as Friendly Findlays.
Yep.
And
he asks, "What are you going to change it to?"
And doesn't he say something like, "Oh, Friendly Findlays is."
Yes, Henry says that Finley's is hokey.
It's hokey, right?
Friendly Finley's is hokey.
Yeah. Then Walter's like, "Well, what are you going to change?" He says, "Jolly
Jenkins."
Because that's certainly not hokey.
That's not hokey at all.
So he says he's making his goodbyes. He's saying he'll see you.
At the lawyers on Thursday, and then Arthur says, "Oh, by the way, there's going to be a going away party. I think the next day."
Right. And Walter
is now crestfallen.
He says Jolly Jenkins. He says he's a jolly jerk.
And he's telling Arthur that he's throwing away my immortality.
Yes.
And then this is another one of the things that really bothers me about today's society is that mom and pop shops like that rarely exist anymore.
No.
Like they only exist in like areas where there's a lot of money.
They're very rural.
And they're either very rural or very well off.
Mm-hmm.
And the example that I use is like you look at a number of the stores like by Port Jefferson and by Northport, any place where there's a pier of some kind or a port of some kind, there'll be like these small mom and pop shops.
Yeah. Like we don't really have that here where we live anymore.
We did. We had Agnew and Taylor.
Yes.
And then that closed.
It closed.
And they turned it into a what?
It's a cancer specialist medical type of
interesting
office now.
An oncology office?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and the thing is that was a historical building. And
they just completely tore it down.
Well, not torn down, but completely
renovated,
completely gutted. I'm pretty sure
they had to. Like, if you went in there, the floorboards were like creaking.
Yeah, and I mean it's a medical
now it's a medical facility
now, and it's like you certainly couldn't have that. But there was all that history gone. Everything now it's like 7-Elevens, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, dollar stores.
Yep. Dollar Trees are on the rise, apparently.
Yeah. And,
But the reason I bring that up is because Walter ends up mentioning how there was that hardware store that was owned by this person whose name they don't know.
They don't remember.
But they were like, oh, he was around for 30 years. He built up such goodwill with his oh my God, why can't I think of the word? With his community.
Yes.
And then they were like, oh, what's his name?
Yeah, what's his name?
So they completely forgot his name.
Yeah, and they're like, all those years gone for good.
Yeah.
Yes, and Walter is like, what happened to him?
What happened to him? And then Arthur says, oh, he moved out west to raise chickens.
He bought a chicken farm.
To raise chickens.
Right, and Walter's like, and what happened to him? And he says he shot himself 2 years ago.
He shot himself 2 years ago.
And Walter's just like, Friendly Finley's is not hokey.
And then I think at that point is when we cut to.
Well, I have. What did he say? Oh, he said I think one of them says that Jenkins will keep the old store jumping. I know. Oh, and Walter says, yeah, with a moose horn. Oh no, that's I think when we jump to the party.
Yeah, that's when we're at the party.
That's when we jump to the party.
But I think at that, like towards the end of the conversation, Walter finally realizes that he may have goofed a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So we cut to
the party.
The party. And
Walter he's blowing the moose horn.
Walter is blowing the moose horn.
Yes.
And Maude is in a gorgeous olive pantsuit with a red and green. It was the same outfit that she wore for the Christmas party. Mm-hmm. And I want it.
Yes.
I want it badly.
And after Walter was blowing the moose horn, Vivian says Arthur can do it with his hands.
Yeah, and that's when Arthur does it with
his
his
hands.
hands.
He does his moose call with the hands, and Maude says,
if you could give milk, Arthur, we'll take you along.
We take you along. And Arthur's saying that he's going to miss them.
Yep.
And tomorrow they're gonna sign the papers and and goodbye store. Yep. And when he's talking about this to Walter,
Maude
and Vivian
and Vivian go into the kitchen.
Had gone into the kitchen.
And Arthur is going on and on about all the things that are going to be changing.
Right.
Like, you're going to be moving away to Canada. You're going to be living this beautiful life.
Right.
And while Arthur's doing this, Walter's like, right, and blowing into the moose horn.
Yes.
And it comes to a point where, Arthur says one last thing, and Walter just blows air into the horn.
Well, he was laughing.
Yes.
And then he starts crying. Then he's like, I don't want to go. I love the store. Yes, Arthur slaps him.
Arthur slaps him.
Yes.
And he says, Walter, you're a man.
Yes.
And men don't cry.
Yes. You're going to Canada. You're gonna be a man.
Which isn't that just like a friend?
I guess so.
Just like a friend.
Yes. I would just read you to filth.
You would.
And I have.
And you have. Multiple times.
You're still using the liquid lipstick.
I'm still using the liquid lipstick. Okay. There are still feathers in your house.
I know.
So let that serve as a warning.
I know. It won't stop me.
No, it won't.
It won't stop me.
So...
And he's trying to man up.
Yes.
And Arthur's telling him you're gonna love it up there. And then we're in we cut
now
to
we're
the
into
kitchen.
the kitchen, and Maude is saying
and
goodbye,
Maude is
stove.
saying goodbye to
goodbye sink,
stove, goodbye sink,
goodbye refrigerator. And she comes up real close to the refrigerator and says, "I'll defrost you when everyone's gone, and we can cry together."
Yes. You ever had a refrigerator that had to be defrosted?
No, can't say that I have. But I will say this: when the power goes out, no one goes in the fridge.
Oh.
The refrigerator is off limits when the power goes out.
Well, of course. Yeah, that's how you keep the cold in.
Yes.
So.
That's the only time it's ever been defrosted.
I remember, when was it? It was 2000. Remember when we had that big power outage here on the East Coast?
The brownout.
I don't remember what year that was.
2003.
2003, right?
2003.
Yes.
I was still in high school, junior high school at the time, I think.
I hate you. Anyway, I remember. I was working in Hicksville at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at work, and we had that power outage. Immediately, we all thought about 9/11.
Yep.
That's what we immediately thought,
yep.
that there was some sort of another terrorist attack or something. And then we found out that it was. Thank God it wasn't. Had to try and get home, and trying to get to the highway
was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, because no lights were working. And it was just crazy. And I got home and
it happened on a weekend, didn't it?
No, it was a weekday.
It was a weekday.
And me and Frank were we had all this food in the refrigerator, so we're like, what are we gonna do with all this food? And I was like, we better eat it. So we were eating all this food because she didn't want it to
You
go
didn't want it to go bad.
But we lucked out. Our power came on that night.
Yeah, ours came on like late that morning. Like early morning. Like it was still dark out. Like I want to say like it was maybe 3 or 4 in the morning when the power finally kicked back on. And like just the amount of people who bought generators that year and the years following.
Yeah.
Like I remember having the window open, and at the time me and my brother shared a bedroom, and all I remember hearing was this like a distant and I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice."
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Love the generators. All right.
So, defrosting the fridge, trying to get to where we're located, mentions all the things changing, water collapses, goodbye, so I don't have one. Oh, right, male ego, yes,
the male ego.
So I think Vivian is like trying to say, Maude, you really aren't going through with this, and, you know, I think at that point, that's when Arthur comes in saying, male ego.
Yes.
Thank God I had the good sense not to have one.
Right.
Which...
Right. Yes.
God damn it, Arthur.
And he tells Maude that Walter's scared, and you know, and she's
that
like,
point,
she's like,
Maude
"Are you telling
is
me he's having second thoughts?"
Irate.
Yes.
She is irate at that point.
Yes. And there was something about Arthur told us something about he was saying something about Tarzan and Jane.
Yes.
And Tarzan falling out of the tree.
You know,
tree
Tarzan
house.
fell out of the treehouse.
Yes.
So, you know, Maude then says, Vivian, Arthur, go home. You don't want to be around for this.
Right.
And, you know, they're like, well, wait a minute. What are you going to do? And Maude says, Tarzan didn't fall out of the treehouse. Jane pushed him out.
That's right. That's when she starts singing that song.
Yes, the snow is snowing, and I'm not going, and he can marry a moose. And she starts humming to the tune of I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm.
Yes, and that's when Walter comes in the kitchen, and Maude is saying how much she's looking forward to leaving.
Yep. And what Maude says, I forget what Maude says, but she says something to the effect of, yeah, right. I'm trying to remember what it was, because you laughed at it.
Oh, yes, I don't remember.
And I'm trying to remember what it was.
I don't remember now.
I think she says, I'm sure, or we'll find, I think we'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
And she's saying how, you know, they're gonna miss Arthur and Vivian, Carol and Philip.
Yep.
And, you know, she can't think of a good reason not to go.
And then she ends up pouring this hoddle of coffee, and she accidentally burns her pinky.
Yes. And Walter's like, Maude, you burned yourself. What would happen if we were in the wilderness and this happened? And she said, I would just go to the
nearest corner drugstore.
Corner drugstore.
And Walter's like, the nearest corner drugstore is 47 miles away.
Yeah.
And Maude says, oh, well, I'll just get up early and go out for a jog.
Yeah, go out for a jog. And he's like, it's cold and windy. Your hair would get messed up. There's no
Mr. Billy.
I guess, and this is the first we've ever heard of Mr. Billy.
This is the first we've ever heard of a Mr. Billy.
I guess Mr. Billy is her hairdresser.
Yep. And, you know, Maude says, oh, well, Mr. Billy will just fly up.
Yeah, Mr. Billy
always flies.
Which I guess tells
we're telling
some more about Mr. Billy.
Yes, we found out that Mr. Billy is one of us, one of
yes,
ours.
He's family.
One for our town, one for our family.
Know, she says he would just you know, wash out my hair in a bowl of ice.
A hole in the ice.
Right, yes.
And then I think, like, Walter then says, what about your gynecologist? Yes. And Maude says, oh, the Mounties will find one.
Yes,
they always get their gynecologist.
Yes. And Walter's like, I can't make you do this.
And he says, Maude, we're not going.
Yes. You can't be without a druggist, Mr. Billy,
or your gynecologist. But isn't it great how it's the woman's responsibility to, like, how she is the reason?
Yeah.
Like, not to mention how, like, Maude would need a primary care doctor, a dentist, all of these things.
I know. Yes.
So, you know, at that point, you know, Walter turns around, turns his back to Maude and says, I love you more than that silly old dream. Because Maude's like, but your dream, I want you to go and enjoy.
And he's like saying, we're not going. And she's like, I won't let you throw away your dream.
Yes. And then she says that Walter, you're the most unselfish man who ever lived.
That's right.
And Walter turns around and says, It's in my nature,
It's
Maude.
in his nature.
And they go in for a hug, and Maude is like ready to claw his eyes out.
Yes.
And
So
then we cut to the prologue.
the prologue, which we actually had one in this episode.
We did have a prologue.
It's
in this
I guess the
episode.
next morning, Walter and Maude are coming down the stairs. They're in their like robes and pajamas.
Yes.
And they hear a moose call again.
And it's obviously Arthur calling for a moose.
Yeah. So Maude opens the door.
And it's a moose.
And it's an actual moose.
It's a taxidermied moose.
Taxidermied,
but a moose
but
regardless.
A moose, nonetheless.
And, you know, Arthur pops his head out and says, I bet you thought I was an actual moose.
Mm.
And, you know, Maude says, only the head, Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
The other end is still a horse.
Still a horse. Oh,
Obviously
Arthur.
calling Arthur a horse's ass.
A horse's ass. A horse's patootie.
A horse's patootie.
And that brought us to the end of the episode.
I hate the word patootie. I really do. Like, it does nothing for me.
It's not supposed to do anything for you, pussycat.
I know.
Oh,
But
my
just,
Lord.
I mean, when you think about it, when you think about the one line in Golden Girls when Dorothy turns to Stanley and goes, Mr. Belvedere is a humble servant, Stanley, you're a horse's ass.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have landed quite as funny if she said,
Patootie.
you're a horse's patootie.
Yeah.
Like, just,
Of course not.
I just don't
Of course
like
not.
that. But we thank you so much for enjoying another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. If you would like, you can follow us on all forms of social media, on YouTube and Facebook at God'll Get You for That, Walter, and on Instagram at Finley's Friendly Appliances.
Correct.
Where can they find you?
Everywhere. Toni Homeperm.
Everywhere.
And of course,
Toni
that's
Homeperms are available.
Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and the web.
Yup. And you can find me at That Tomcat on all forms of social media or wherever your local That Tomcats are found.
Correct.
Traditionally on street corners. But yes, we thank you so much for listening, and you will hear us again on another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. Bye, guys.
Good night.